Hi, everybody. This is Mike Parker, and thank you for joining us for a conversation with the new head men's basketball coach, Wayne Tinkle. I think you'll be very impressed with what you're about to see and hear. Wayne comes to Oregon State University from a very special situation at Montana. He's been the head coach there the past 8 years, and in this conversation, we'll visit some great times, NCAA tournament trips, but more important, an articulation by Coach Tinkle of his vision for Oregon State University and why he took the job on, even when he said he's gotten some texts and calls from people saying, that's a tough job, you know. Well, as you'll find out, the Beavers have gotten a man that's ready to roll up his sleeves and go to work. From Missoula, Montana, by way of Spokane and 12 years in Europe, now meet the Oregon State head men's basketball coach, Wayne Tinkle. Well, Coach Tinkle, welcome to Beaver Nation, to Oregon State, to this beautiful basketball center, and thanks for taking time for us here today. A major move and change for you, for your family, but it felt like you've articulated it was the right time and opportunity, and so here you are, the head coach of the Oregon State men's basketball team. Could you kind of just sum up some of your feelings about that and how it all came about?
Well, thanks, Mike. First of all, it's great to be here. My family and I are honored to be a part of this family. Still a little bit of a whirlwind. I mean, things have happened fairly quickly. First off, where we came from, the University of Montana, my alma mater, my wife's, she's in the Hall of Fame there. What a great 25 plus years that we spent in that community and part of that university. And obviously that's a big reason why we haven't looked to move on sooner. And we always said it was going to take a special place to take us away from such a special place. And I really believe that's the situation here in Corvallis and at Oregon State University. The timing is right because we'd been there for 13 years, 8 as the head coach. We'd accomplished a lot of things there. And then looking at Oregon State, I kind of haphazardly took a look at the possibility. Several people reached out, sold me on the people here, the community, and then the momentum that had been started moving forward with the men's program. And as I did more research, I'm a people person. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. Family is very important to me. And what I discovered, it was very much like Missoula, not only the community, but the people on campus, the ones that we work with each and every day, from the folks that mow the lawn, to the ones that serve the meals, to the ones that teach the classes, so on and so forth. They're going to be part of our team, and hearing that there are outstanding folks really got me excited about taking a serious look at this possibility, and we're thrilled and haven't had 1 second of doubt moving forward.
As you say, a whirlwind time and a lot of things to put in place before you really get into back onto the court and getting with the young men and off-season workouts and all of that.
Sure.
But in terms of the job itself, I mean, you know the history of Oregon State basketball when not that long ago for some of us, number one in the country and a perennial NCAA tournament team. You also have, you know well, the history over the past quarter century that hasn't been at that level.
Right.
Were you at all concerned or worried about that? That's a long period of time to not be in the tournament. What were your thoughts about looking at that straight in the eye, so to speak, and saying, yeah, I can take that on?
You know, I wasn't concerned one bit about, you know, the lack of success to whatever level, you know, in the last quarter century. I don't operate that way. In my mind was the potential moving forward. I know there's been success in the past in the men's program. I know a lot has changed since then with the whole AAU world, but the ingredients haven't changed. We preach being a champion every day in everything you do. And when you do that, and you do it with not just consistency, but a true belief, that's when you put yourself in position to succeed on the court. Character, discipline, togetherness. Those were the ingredients back in those glory days. And that's what we're going to bring with us from Montana now to Oregon State and get back there. You know, moving forward, I think we're going to be competitive. Now, timetable, we're not going to say how soon that's going to be. But we're very much a positive type thinkers moving forward. We had a meeting with several of the players The ones that are here yesterday have got them very excited, and we're confident that we're going to put together a group that's going to represent Beaver Nation very well, and hopefully before long be competing the way we know we can consistently year after year.
Coach, you alluded a little bit to, the culture's changed a little bit from the days when the Beavers were number one in the country, and you even alluded to the AAU world and so on, and yet you kind of enumerated some fundamental things that sound like they apply. Ralph Miller used to say, the game's not changed that much. Ralph was a big proponent of the game itself and the fundamentals needed to win. Haven't changed since maybe the peach basket was put up.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that, the balance of a culture that you acknowledge has changed somewhat? How do the fundamental things still, have you had to adjust a little bit to the modern era in the way you coach and recruit young men?
Certainly. There's a lot of aspects that have changed in and around the world of basketball. The people that you have to go through and deal with. The game itself hasn't. Now players have gotten bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, but the fundamentals are the same. There's teams that maybe don't have as much focus on the fundamentals that are talented enough to just go win, but I'm kind of a purist. I love teaching the game. Our staff is very good at teaching the game, mentoring the student athletes. Sidebar here just a little bit. The reason I got into coaching originally was not just to fulfill that competitive need as a former player. I really wanted to invest in the complete individual, as proven by our success in the classroom and in the community. Our job is to really develop these young men into responsible, accountable, disciplined individuals moving forward, no matter how far basketball takes them. If you look at it in a business perspective and repeat customers, when we send them back to their communities and they're the best basketball player that they can become, they have a structured plan in place, they've got a degree that they've earned, they've got a skill set to now go be contributing members to their communities, then that experience is going to be passed on to others. And so when we're back in that area recruiting, we know they can only say positive things about what we've done here at Oregon State. And future, we want future leaders. I've got children, going to have grandchildren. It's about developing future leaders for our country, and that's all inclusive, and it's something that's not compromised in the way we go about our business. So those are big motivators behind what we do and the way we do it.
Who instilled those sorts of things in you in terms of your own foundation to speak in the manner that you have, coaches you've played for and people you've been around?
More so the way I was raised and the family upbringing that I have. And I'm not going to talk too long because this is where I usually get emotional, but I could talk about my father being raised in Detroit during the Depression, in and out of foster care, kicked out of school when he was 10, brought out of school when he was 10 by his parents to get a full-time job. Truant, thrown in and out of foster care like I mentioned, lied to the armed services to join the Navy when he was 16, fought in World War II, and got married when he got out. Long story short, earned his degree at Michigan State, got his master's, was vice president, dean of students at Marquette, Loyola Chicago, Gonzaga. Many lessons that I learned growing up about staying humble, serving others. You're not as important, as the people around you. And so I learned a lot of those core values growing up with an incredible family. And I know how blessed I was to have received that. I've taken some of those same things that I've learned, and I was very frank to the committee when we spoke on the phone about some of the things that I learned as a child, some tough situations that really helped form my foundation, the character, and the belief system that I have.
That's an impressive story about your father. And you were telling me that when you were coming out of Ferris High School in Spokane, your father's the dean of students at Gonzaga at the time. What about your choices coming out of Ferris High School and how you ended up at Montana?
Sure. Well, my father had gone back to Chicago for a couple of years to Loyola, and then when I was in high school at Ferris, he had a different job, St. Vincent de Paul Society, which is sort of the Catholic version of Goodwill. But there weren't any sour grapes towards Gonzaga at all. It's just where they were at with their program at the time. But was sort of a late bloomer. Had a great finish to my junior year, success as a senior. Looked at a couple of the Pac-12 schools, Pac-10 schools then, Washington State, Washington. Was really sold at Montana. Had also Rick Majerus, who we'll find out as we move forward. We have a little bit of a tie with our staff now. Was at Marquette. My dad had worked there. Loyola Marymount, Oklahoma State. Well, I chose Montana because of Mike Montgomery, who we're all obviously aware of here in the Pac-12. What they were doing in the Big Sky, knocking off the Idahos that were ranked, Washington, so on and so forth. Almost canceled my visit there because I thought, like recruits thought even now, covered wagons and sheep and all that sort of thing. Once I got on campus, I fell in love with the people, the town, the blue collar mentality, the together we can get anything done type attitude. And I didn't care about the glitz and glamour of any other conference that was supposedly at a higher level. I wanted to be around good people that had the same beliefs. And so I chose to go to Montana, had a great time there, met my wife there, and obviously enjoyed a 12-year career after my college days. We always spent the off seasons in Missoula, and then in 2001 went into coaching there. So that was a big part of my life, a big chunk, a lot of great memories. But like we said at the onset, it's time for a change, and all that love and passion that we invested not only in the community, but in that program and university, we're thrilled about bringing those same things here to Corvallis and starting a new adventure.
If you made the choice to play for Mike Montgomery, and Mike was a young coach then and just beginning his great rise in the game, but what do you remember about Mike at that time? How did he help you in your own foundation as a basketball player and as a coach?
He had a commitment to the small details. And I tell our guys now, they think 2-hour practice is long. We would go 4 hours. There were no rules, the Cara rules, about how long we, could practice throughout the week. So we would spend 2 hours on offense, and I'm telling you what, we would go 5-on-0, running our sets day after day after day after day. And, when you're a young kid and think you have all the answers, you're like, why are we doing this? Well, repetition breeds confidence. And then confidence, obviously, you feel like you're going to have success with that. So those are some of the lessons we learned. Details are vital, and you can't skip them, and you can't move forward until everybody's understanding and on the same page. He was a thinker. What I really learned is how to adapt and think out on the court as a player, read mismatches, read who had the hot hand. I wasn't blessed with incredible athleticism, so I had to be smart and I had to be tough. And I've carried those two characteristics into my coaching profession. And I'm a guy that, end of a game, I know the other team thinks they know what we're going to run. We're going to draw something up that they haven't seen and get the game-winning play. But we're going to drill that every day in practice. I've been criticized, well, not criticized because my staff knows better, but they're like, how can you do that? How can you? And I said, well, if we do it each and every day, they're going to be trained, and then they're going to be able to take that to the court, and it's going to win us games down the stretch. And the byproduct is going to be their IQ goes up. I'm a big IQ guy. So I learned some of those things early on from Stu Morrill. They were both very cerebral coaches, and some characteristics that have stuck with me for a lot of years.
You talk about cerebral and high basketball IQ and so on. One of the coaches in the Big Sky said that you have a very resourceful offensive mind, and that's a compliment that I hope you own. And said, well, thank you. That you might even be able to agree with that. What about both aspects, the total game, defensive mentality as well? Would you say that it's true that over the years you have, you loved X and O and scheme offensively?
Certainly early on in my tenure as head coach, that's where I was more confident. I've been blessed with great assistant coaches. Most recently, Bill Evans, who is a 1-1-3 matchup zone guy, was on my staff. Talked till the wee hours of the night trying to convince me to play that. We had an incredible center named Brian Qualley, who was the all-time leader in block shots in the Big Sky Conference. And I said, you mean you want me to have him run baseline or corner to corner to trap in this 1-1-3 when he's the best protector of the rim we'll ever have? And so we kind of agreed on a hybrid type deal. But I learned some valuable lessons that, and I always knew this, but that you could dominate a game defensively as much as you can offensively. And we send that message to our players as well. Everybody wants to score points and take their guy and try to smile at them after they score on them. And we really sell the defensive end. And my philosophy has changed. You mentioned it earlier. I don't know that I really touched on it, but as we've gotten better with our teams and more trustworthy, we sell our guys on, you play your tail off defensively and rebound the ball, and then we'll stay out of your way of going the other way. We preach discipline, spacing, and unselfishness offensively, but I know there were times playing the game that it drove me nuts when we rebounded the ball, outletted it, and then all 5 heads had to turn to the bench to see what we were running. You know, and so we give the freedom to go make plays offensively, but you got to earn it by selling out on the defensive end. And kids these days buy into it. You know, so defense, if you look at some of our stats over the years, we've been at the top of the Big Sky and even ranked nationally, defensive field goal percentage, 3-point defensive field goal percentage, that sort of thing. And we hope to carry on those moving forward as well.
Wayne, I wanted to ask you about a game I've read about. It lives in legend in terms of a Big Sky tournament game, and I'm just wondering, perhaps in microcosm, what maybe that game said about the quality of the program you were building, the young men you were coaching in a Big Sky title game on a hostile home court in Ogden against Weber State for the title to go to the tournament. You're down 20 at halftime and win. Man, I still read about that and think, how did they do that? So how did you do it?
Well, I joked that we almost, bypassed halftime and went right to the bus. But I had my staff in the hallway, and I said, guys, how do we approach this locker room? And, one coach would say, hey, we need to go throw chairs. We need to do this. The other guy, hey, let's just try to rally them. And I said, you know what? I've got the answer. And so I remembered back 2 months prior, we had played there in league. We were down 10 at halftime. By the 10-minute mark, we were up 8. So I went in and I said, fellas, I'm not going to, yell, fire and brimstone here. Here's the solution. We were down 10 2 months ago, came back and went up 8 because we got stops. We played with more purpose and unselfishness offensively. We got back in the game. I said, we're going to do that again, only we're going to finish this one. And so it was very matter of fact. We did bring out some points offensively. Okay, we've got to get more turns. We've got to get it inside a little bit more. But we're going to crank up the defense, and we're not going to allow them to have anything in transition. What got lost in that is we held a very, very high power Weber State team with Damian Lillard.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. We held them to 25 points by changing defenses. That's a big philosophy of mine. Zone, man, 3/4 court trap, bluff a trap. And we had a kid named Anthony Johnson that went off for 34 points that second half. And people thought we just kind of let him go, but we really had to call sets, call timeouts, let the other 4 guys know how to stay the hell out of the way. So it wasn't kind of a roll it out there and go.
Right.
But I tell you what, it was a turning point in my career as a coach for not throwing in. I mean, we never give up. But we always believe in coaching to the final horn, even when we're getting blown out in an NCAA tournament game or when we're blowing out somebody else. We want to always have our best effort each and every possession. And that was a game that we were rewarded, and I thought really, really skyrocketed our program moving forward for the level of expectation, the way we carry ourselves on the court and conduct ourselves off the court. That was a big point.
Then a couple of years later, back-to-back Big Sky regular season titles and tournament titles 2 years in a row. And you beat Damian Lillard again for another title game. And I've been told that one of your recruits, and I want to kind of get to a recruiting philosophy, but that Will Cherry, a kid out of Oakland, McClymonds, under the radar type guy.
Sure.
But he ended up head-to-head against Damian Lillard, Coach Evans said he might have outplayed Damian in several of those games. That's a high compliment. So maybe you could speak to that, since Lillard's a known quantity to everybody for the Blazers and is a beloved player. But you had a guy that wasn't afraid and took him on, and yet he was an under-the-radar type guy. Tell us how he fit into your recruiting philosophy.
Well, I'll go back a little bit more. We were able to identify some of those guys, a Will Cherry, a Kareem Jamar, Brian Qualley, Derek Selvig, that were getting recruited at a higher level. We knew they were character guys. Will Cherry wasn't recruited at that same level. He was a character guy on some very, very talented teams, and we were able to forecast, because of what he stood for, how he played and carried himself, what he would be like in our system. And so we've had a lot of success of identifying those guys and then developing them. They played against each other growing up in Oakland, Will and Damian. Brian Qualley and Derek, they wanted to be a part of something special. They didn't care about the level or the glitz and the glamour. They wanted to be surrounded by guys that had the same beliefs, you know, and so putting guys like that together, selling them on what we believed in, was easy. And then it was getting success, learning that you did the right things to put yourself in position to succeed, I think continued to breed that level of confidence that took us to a higher level. But I have the utmost respect for Damian. I'm telling you, our guys got tired of seeing, when their bus showed up to play us at 5:30, he was already in a full sweat because he had gotten a ride from somebody else, was in there getting up shots at least by 5 o'clock. You know, stories of, you know, him calling a coach in the middle of the night down in Ogden, hey, get me in the gym. Yeah. And so we shared that with our guys, and it's no surprise he's enjoying the success that he is now because of his level of commitment. And he had a great coaching staff. But it's fun to say, I mean, we ended his career 3 years in a row, and you're talking about a lottery pick, rookie of the year, all-star in year 2. And it was done with players that weren't necessarily 4 or 5-star recruits. It was kids that we believed in, that we sold in our vision and the way of doing things. And that's the plan that we're going to take here at Oregon State as well. We know it's successful. It was successful way before me. Guys like Judd Heathcote, Mike Montgomery, Jim Brandenburg, Stu Morrill, Blaine Taylor, the coaching tree at Montana, and they all succeeded when they went on to, you know, to bigger places. We know that the formula is going to work, and we're happy to be here, but we're thrilled to get the same kind of guys that we feel we can build those championship type teams with here.
In terms of recruiting to Oregon State, it sounds like you've already articulated an approach and a philosophy. You've had success in the Bay Area with players to Missoula and to Southern California, and recently signees from Australia. So a young man from Baltimore, Germany. So tell us a little bit about, you know, what your reach is and what your approach will be at Oregon State now in recruiting.
Well, it's going to start with regional kids. You know, if you look at, you know, as I'm getting advice on who to hire as assistants, so he's got great ties to Seattle and Portland, and you look at where he's worked, and they haven't had a Seattle or Portland area kid on their roster in years. It's kind of funny, but we really believe, you know, whether it's Oregon kids where we want to start, Washington, Idaho, Northern California, we want to start here because I'm a big believer in pride and tradition. And I think if you've got a team made up of players from far away from where we're at, it's hard to get them to buy into that. So we're going to get the best players from this area, and we're sure going to battle for them. I know there's some great programs around us that have a lot to offer as well. But it starts there, and they're the ones that are going to understand the history and the vision of where we want to go. And then we have a far-reaching arm. I mean, we can go international if we have to, all around the United States, Canada. And what we're going to do is identify the players that we feel fit our system and what they stand for, character, you know, discipline, the things we've talked about. And then once we get them here, now it's time, the second half of recruiting, to coach them. That gets lost. People think that, you know, recruiting is our lifeblood, and it is, but there is a big part of it called coaching and mentoring and that sort of thing, teaching. So that's the second phase. And once we have them here on campus, I promise you we'll be very confident in our approach and the message we send and the work we put in to put it all together.
You have counter to a lot of the programs in the Big Sky that I've read in terms of going into the junior college ranks. You've done that. You've had some
Sure.
JC players, maybe not as many
No.
as some of your brethren in the league. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to junior college ball.
Well, I'll start by saying the reason we prefer high school is because we have them 4 to 5 years. You know, especially you say big guys, you know, they need maybe a little extra time to develop. You need time to sell them on your message and get them to buy in. But that doesn't mean you can't get junior college players to come in and buy into the same thing. They just have to be of the right makeup. We're very successful at Montana in finding guys that in 2 years where they might think, I'm doing it my way, I've got a short little run here, but high character, we won't compromise that. I think of guys like Art Stewart, Anthony Johnson, Jordan Wood, just in recent history, that came in and bought into team. Vassie Banny, who won a national championship at Salt Lake Community, one of my all-time favorites. They bought into the message. They put the team first. They didn't have individual goals. They wanted to have team success. So it can be done. You know, if we had 4 scholarships in any given year, probably would go 3 to high school, 1 maybe to a junior college player. Sometimes you have to change that depending on the balance of your classes and some of your needs. But overall, we want to recruit younger kids to get them here and be a part of our program for 4 to 5 years.
With respect to Oregon State now and the roster you're inheriting and the recruiting class that the previous staff worked very hard, one of them comes from what you just alluded to, and Gary Payton too, from Salt Lake Community College. So what's your job now with the recruiting class, Coach, and the current roster and your plan going forward?
Well, my priority is to reach out and get to the players that we have right now on campus. We had a short but inspirational type meeting in the locker room last night. You know, there was some great feedback afterwards about the level of excitement after that meeting. I really want to compliment Coach Robinson on what he had done in his last couple of recruiting classes. I think he really had addressed high character guys. I hear that from everybody. I see it just in my brief meetings. They're guys that want to do it the right way, do it together, and enjoy success, taste success for the first time. Then we're going to reach out to the committed recruits moving forward. We've already done that last night. Coach Rupp, who is an invaluable asset to me both on and off the court, we hope to have here, spent some time reaching out. We've gotten a commitment. Chai Baker's fired up. I released that this morning that he's more committed than ever, spoke with his mother. We did speak to GP2 last night. He's excited. We've texted back and forth with his father, you know, and I think there's not going to be a doubt he'll be in an OSU uniform next year. And then we're reaching out to the others as well to sell them about our vision, to get them excited, and really to tell them that it's okay, because this is an emotional time.
Yeah.
You know, you lose the guy that really sold you on the program. You know, who's the next knucklehead that's going to be sitting in that seat? And so that's part of the process we're going to go through now, and it's my top priority. The staff, we've got time to take care of that. But I want to get these guys bought in right now to the direction that we're heading in and what it's going to take to get there. And so that's what we're doing here early on in the process.
And I mentioned your family. We'll kind of close on this, Coach. It really is unbelievable when you talk about meeting Lisa at Montana, your wife, and she's in the Hall of Fame. I looked at your comparative stats. I think you had maybe 15 more points and 15 more rebounds there, but she's right there and she's in the Hall. You met there? Did you meet it? I mean, just at a basketball game, at a practice, and how? I mean, you had just a little bit of a statistical edge on her. So,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks. Yeah, she was a hell of a lot better college player than I was, and the key stat, she won a lot more games. Okay. But we met. Funny story. I had redshirted my first year. She was on a recruiting trip, and we had a big kind of a dinner in the Commons, all the different departments, and coach back then was able to introduce, because of the rules, the recruits that were there. And the next morning I said, well, where were those gals from, Coach Selvig? Coach Selvig, a legend. And he said, well, they're 3 Montana, 6-foot blondes. And I had a feeling right then I was going to marry one of them, I promise you. So then she got to school the next fall. We didn't meet for a few weeks. I would catch her hanging late into the cafeteria to wait till we came in from practice and vice versa at lunch, and started dating probably a month into the process. Dated all 4 years. She would break up with me when she was tired of me for a couple of weeks, and I did that a time or two. And then we got engaged our junior year and got married the summer after our senior year. She followed me around Europe. We raised our kids, started having children right away. Jocelyn and Ellie, our 2 oldest, got to go to Spain, go to school in Spain for a few years. And we really had a great time over there. And I couldn't be more blessed for the support and the love that I have from my wife and my children. The type of kids that they are, and we'll talk about them briefly. We all know that they've been huge successes athletically, with Jocelyn at Stanford, dual major, but also playing in 3 Final Fours. Ellie, the first female basketball player at Gonzaga University to be going through the nursing school. And then my son Trace, who's a junior. Beyond and above all, they're incredible kids and great students. And the fact that they're good athletes is really just a bonus. So family means a lot to me, and I couldn't be more blessed for what I've had with my family now and the family that I grew up with.
It's amazing when I read about your 12 years in Europe, in Sweden and Greece and Italy and Spain. That's quite a journey, and Lisa was there with you. Were all 3 of your kids born abroad, or?
Jocelyn was born in Sweden. Our second year over there was quite an experience in itself. And then we had kind of planned for the other 2 to be born back in the States. So they were both born, Ellie and Trace, in Missoula. Kind of staggered out. Obviously, the last, I think, 5 years in Spain is what they remember the most. But we enjoyed, great times in Athens, Greece. We've got video of Ellie at about 20 months doing a lap around the original Olympic Stadium. We had video of that, and so
nice.
Great lessons that we've learned, and I think the level of maturity my kids have comes from all of that one-on-one time we were able to enjoy in those early years in Europe.
You mentioned your son Trace, and I had read that it's pronounced Trade.
It is Trace.
It's Trace. Mm-hmm. Okay.
The Spanish spelling and pronunciation.
I said I wouldn't make you, okay, well, is he coming with you here now?
Well, I can't talk about that.
I know you can't. But he certainly is getting a lot of attention on the recruiting trail. And, I just wonder, as his father, beyond whatever he ends up choosing to do, just what your thoughts are, your hopes for him, whatever direction he may go.
Well, it's going to follow the same path that my daughters followed. We took a lot of heat at Montana for not forcing our girls to stay home. Well, it's really about the best opportunities for them. It was neat that Trace was there to watch that process. It was fun for me as a coach to really sell on my kids to look for the same things we preach to the parents we recruit. So that was a fun process, and Trace was in the middle of it and has learned a lot from it. He's going to go through the process like he should. He very much wants to play for his father. I think there's some real neat things there that you can't enjoy every day necessarily. You see the McDermotts and the fun that they've had and the attention that brought. But we need to make sure it's right for him, and we're going to allow him to go through that process. And I said, Trace, I'll make you one promise. Nobody's going to be able to out-recruit your dad because I got you every day. So, and then there's a piece of spending the night with the mom every night, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing as far as that's concerned.
Well, we wrap it up, Coach, with thanking you for taking a generous amount of your time in this whirlwind time. The interview being conducted from this beautiful basketball practice center. And as you go forward and the whirlwind continues here for a while, what are your thoughts about sitting in this facility? You've already complimented Craig for the character of the young man that he's been recruiting, and certainly this is a great legacy of of Coach Robinson and his staff too, was this piece, this very place you're in. Part of what, this is a commitment from the administration and Beaver Nation, so to speak, to take this thing forward.
Without a doubt. I told Bob, I said, I see the momentum being built there. And I said, you know, you might laugh at that because of what we're going through right now in this search. But you do see the commitment from the administration, which is huge. The support really starting to fester again as far as, you know, Beaver basketball and putting it all together. The pieces, I think, are starting to be put together. And I think it's going to take the right group of people that I'm confident we're going to become to really put the final touches on turning around Beaver basketball, getting things going, and becoming a competitive team on and off the court each and every year. I'm thrilled to be here. Like I said at the onset, it was going to take a special place to get me away from Montana. Well, I really feel like it is a special time here with a lot of special people, and we're glad to be a part of it and are absolutely thrilled. I've been getting emails and calls from everybody far and wide about what a tough job this is. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, tell me one that's not. Every job out there is tough. I see opportunity. I don't see hurdles. I don't see challenges. And that's the focus that we're going to take in from day one to sell to our guys. And we're going to get things headed in the right directions. I'm not a guy that makes promises, but you'll see some changes and you'll see them fast.